We are stopping by another trailer here at Devolver Digital's parking lot outside of E3 2016, and we're catching up with Pierre here, who's the creative lead on a new game called Absolver. And when this game was first announced, I was kind of like, that's interesting, and no one's ever done that before. Would you introduce those who are unfamiliar with the project? What kind of game is Absolver?
Okay, so Absolver is an online combat RPG in which players will explore a game world in which there are seamlessly matchmaked with other players. So as you explore the world, you're going to meet other players and build new stories with them. So are you going to fight? Are you going to trade? Are you going to make friends? Eventually you're going to build up a team of friends, and with these people you can access PvP game modes, so it's up to 3 versus 3. This is ranked competitive games, or 3-player PvE co-op. So that's the general structure is that way. So you've got the world exploration in which you meet people, and you've got the game modes PvP and PvE. And the core gameplay is a combat gameplay that we want to make something that was very dynamic, very fluid, in which impacts matter. And that's inspired by martial arts. We all practice martial arts, we love martial arts movies, and we want something that has that beauty and depth of martial arts. So we made a system that is pretty accessible, so it's easy to pick up and play, but there's a number of layers of depth to the combat that make it interesting even at high-level PvP gameplay.
When we're talking about online games and that sort of thing, we often hear about classes and that sort of thing. Is there different variations to the fighting styles, or how are you approaching that, or is it a mix of things?
Basically, there are different things. A fighting style has a special ability. That's the first thing. So each fighting style has a different ability. When you're out of combat, you can switch between the different combat styles that you've learned. And different combat styles have different bonuses, and so when you choose a combat style, it gives you a bonus on your stats, and it also opens up that special ability. So for instance, one combat style would have parry as special ability, one combat style will have avoid as special ability. So these are all balanced together to make for interesting play styles.
And I suppose when it's 3-on-3 as well, it may pay to sort of have a balanced team to sort of counter whatever you may encounter there.
Pretty much. It's important that you have balanced builds, or that you kind of each specialize in a kind of role. We're pre-alpha now, so we're balancing this out. We're prototyping a lot, especially for the 3v3, so different game modes, etc.
I was thinking, like, one of the things that intrigued me about this is the fact you're doing this online, obviously sort of melee fighting games. Yeah. You cannot have any sort of collision detection and sort of, it needs to, it can't be any lag or anything like that. How do you treat that?
First of all, we're a team of AAA developers. We worked with Ubisoft Paris for many years, and we have significant experience working on online replication, because we've been working on online games before. So this is technology that we have already built, and we know what's complicated, what's hard in it, etc. And we've designed the game. So from a design perspective and from a code perspective, from the first day we started working on it, we designed it with an online perspective. And so in the build-up durations, in the input lag we give and we manage, all this is managed to ensure that even if you're playing online, you'll get a solid experience up to a decent amount of lag. If you're above 200 milliseconds of lag, the experience is going to suffer. But below that, everything should be okay, and the game is really thought out for online gameplay.
And I suppose this is one of those things where testing the game, making sure that everything works as well as it can for everyone, and sort of seeing how people are match made, etc. That's gonna come with time.
Yeah, we're gonna deploy our servers. So we've been working on our own internal servers for now. We're going to deploy our servers next month, and that's the moment we're going to really start testing out all these issues to prepare to release a beta later this year.
What can you say of the world? I mean, it's quite striking in its visual style. What kind of world is this? And in terms of the visual language, what have you been aiming for?
This is, well, in terms of visuals, our art director Michel Donzé has worked to create something with realistic human proportions, but that is still stylized, that allows you to project your imagination in this world. So we're not aiming for something that's too realistic, so there are hard edges in the modelizations. The textures are pretty graphical, so we're kind of doing something that's slightly surreal. And because this is a fantasy world, the game takes place in the ruins of an empire that fell centuries ago. It would take too long to start getting into details of the story now, but basically your objective as a player, you have two objectives, which is becoming an Absolver, which is an order of mass combatants who fight to maintain order and stability to the world. And you also want to figure out what happened to the empire and why it fell apart.
Interesting. How do you treat narrative in this game? You know, there are many ways of treating narrative, and MMOs have a particular way of doing it. That are you sticking to that, or are you looking towards something else? Or?
Well, we're not an MMO, so you'll never see 50 people running around in the game. So you matchmake with small number of people. But besides this, the storyline of the game very much acknowledges the fact that there is a group of players, that there's a community of players, that there are these prospects who want to become Absolvers, and why are these people here together, what happens in the interaction. So the story is very much about the group of players and the community as a whole, rather than just being just about you, the hero. So that's how we treat the fact that this is an online game, but this is taken into account in the narrative.
Interesting. We touched on something on the roadmap. You're not that far away from sort of letting people in. But what's further ahead? How far away are you? And is it PC only, or are you considering other?
It's PC and consoles. We haven't confirmed consoles yet. We're working with Unreal Engine 4, which is a big help in porting the game to consoles, and we'll be releasing in 2017.
Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.